Hello, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to be talking about finding a tutor. Now, of course, the new school year just started, and you're all interested in your studies and you're wanting to get ahead, but maybe your school doesn't offer certain classes that you'd like to take, and maybe you're having trouble with some other kind of subject. Like for me, if I were to attend school again, I would definitely need a math tutor because I'm pretty horrible at mathematics. And maybe I would want to learn another language. Maybe I'd like to study Taiwanese or something. I would need to hire a tutor.
Right, like learning to play the piano. When I was a kid, I didn't practice enough. And my piano teacher suggested that I get a piano tutor, and that tutor's job was just to make sure I practiced, which was, not a hard job for her. But anyway, yeah, tutors really can come in handy, especially if you have a difficult course like a math course for some of us. I got a great tutor here in Taiwan to help me with my statistics course that I was taking at school. And wow, that helped a whole lot. We're going to talk about finding the right tutor for you, but first we're going to read through today's lesson.
There are many reasons for engaging a private tutor to further your education. For example, you may need some extra lessons and exercises to improve your grades and catch up with your peers in a subject you're struggling with. You might also wish to study a subject that is not taught in school. In either case, going to a cram school might not be the right choice for you, as they usually have fixed schedules and minimum class sizes. Hiring a tutor allows you to be more flexible with your learning schedule. These days, you can also get private tutoring online, which also gives you greater choice and freedom with your academic endeavors. In fact, tutors have a long and celebrated history. In ancient Greece, tutors were learned instructors who were hired by wealthy families to educate their children in subjects including language, philosophy, and history. Students would be educated individually or in small groups. This practice continued for centuries, with the children of royal and noble families receiving an education from the best teachers in the land. In universities, tutors would also live in the same residences as students and help them learn. Nowadays, private tutors are often employed to instruct children in particular subjects, such as a foreign language, or to assist them in passing an important exam.
Okay, guys, let's dive right in. We're going to be talking about how to find the right tutor for you or finding the right tutor for you. There are many reasons for engaging a private tutor to further your education. So if you're going to engage someone, we use this a lot when we talk about engaging someone in conversation. Get them participating, get them active in whatever's happening. Or you could say someone has a really engaging personality. If you have an engaging personality, you're someone who's quite charming to speak with or talk to, and people like to have fun conversations with you because you're engaging. If you're shy and quiet, that's probably not someone who's very engaging immediately. Maybe you have to get to know that person more first. But here we're going to engage a private tutor. Here it just means to hire someone to do some sort of job. I'm going to engage a tutor. So here we're talking about someone who typically will come to your house and help you out, or maybe you're going to meet your tutor at school. I had a tutor at Zhengda, and we would meet in the library and go through the homework I had done, and he'd help me figure out where I went wrong. So engaging a private tutor, we actually use that verb engage for different things, don't we?
We do indeed. And I do think about marriage when I see this word engage. To get engaged means that someone has asked you to marry them and you're getting ready to get married. You're not married yet, but you're going to soon. I'm engaged, or I got engaged last Saturday. But in this particular case, we're using the word engage as a verb. It just means to use the services of a private tutor to help further your education. Further here just means to make your education better, to add things to it, etc., to improve your education. For example, you may need some extra lessons and exercises to improve your grades and catch up with your peers in a subject you're struggling with. So, yes, indeed, you might need those extra lessons and some extra exercises, okay? And you're doing that to improve your grades in school. And maybe your peers are getting ahead of you. So here, peer as a noun just refers to someone who's generally in the same situation as you. They're your classmates, your coworkers, people of the same age, etc.
Yeah, and sometimes you do fall behind in some classes you're taking at school, and you need a little extra help. Don't be afraid to ask for extra help if you need it. Everybody needs extra help at some time in their lives, that's for sure. And here we're talking about peers, as Tom said. These are people that are in a similar situation as you, a similar class. Usually it's referred to when we're talking about schoolmates, classmates, peers. But it could be, after you finish school entirely. Your peers are people that are in your generation, have similar experiences with you. So you want to catch up. If that's the case, you might think about hiring or engaging a private tutor. So don't struggle too long before asking for help. You might also wish to study a subject that is not taught in school. There are lots of things that aren't taught in school anymore. I mentioned I took piano lessons when I was young. You really couldn't take piano lessons in elementary school, at least where I'm from. And so if you wanted to learn how to play the piano, you would have to get a private piano teacher, a private private class in some way. And that's what I did. But say you want to study, I don't know, some language that's not offered in school. Of course, English is usually offered. If you're from America, Spanish is always offered. Sometimes German. I had German, French, Spanish offered in high school and junior high where I grew up. But what if you wanted to learn Korean or Japanese? You might have to find a private tutor to help you after school, right? When you weren't in class with the rest of your classmates.
If I wanted to study Chinese back in high school, I would not have been able to do it. There weren't Chinese people within a 100-mile radius of my hometown.
They could not leave China at that point.
Indeed. Or there may have been foreign students at the universities in my state, but those were hundreds of miles away. But nowadays, I think there's a couple of Chinese restaurants in my hometown, so maybe some of their staff would take on an extra job as a Chinese tutor. Who knows? But in any case, those are some examples of subjects you might take if you want to find a tutor, something to learn something new or to help you with something you're already studying in class. So yes, indeed, you might also wish to study a subject that is not taught in school. So taught here is the past tense and the past participle of the verb to teach, and it's simply not taught in your school. No one's teaching it there, but you still want to study it, so that's why you would want to hire a tutor.
So the next sentence is in either case, or we could say in either situation, going to a cram school might not be the right choice for you, as they usually have fixed schedules, which means they can't change. And sometimes they actually have minimum class sizes as well. Maybe there isn't enough room for you. We don't really talk about cram school in America. We don't even have cram schools, really. The first time I'd heard of a cram school, which Tom and I both just call busiban because that's what we hear all the time, I thought, oh, this is interesting. To actually have a whole class of students meeting together. is a great thing to offer students, because private lessons can sometimes be kind of expensive. So here we're talking about maybe not going to cram school because the schedule doesn't fit your own schedule, and maybe there are too many people or there aren't enough people who want to take a particular course or start a cram course, a cram school course. There aren't enough people. Minimum just means the lowest number that's needed. So maybe you could say you're going out to look for a job and the minimum salary that you're going to accept is $35,000. That's an example. Of course, it can go much higher, but you won't go lower than that.
Yeah, we often hear about the minimum wage, the least amount that your employer can pay you. My minimum wage was, about $5, $6 or something for my first job. That was many, many years ago. But yes, these classes have minimum sizes, and they have fixed schedules, and hiring a tutor allows you to be more flexible with your learning schedule. So you can schedule your tutor classes at different times during the week. That would be more flexible. Flexible means it can change easily, it can bend easily without breaking. You could say that certain kinds of wood are flexible or certain kinds of metal are flexible, but in this particular case we're talking about our schedule. It's flexible, I can change times pretty easily to fit the requirements of other people. And these days you can also get private tutoring online, which also gives you greater choice and freedom with your academic endeavors. So if we talk about something having to do with academic or academics, that just means having to do with education and learning. And an endeavor is just something that you're attempting to do. It's a goal you're trying to accomplish. So basically, yes, it's going to help you with your school goals, your academic endeavors.
Yeah, I wanted to mention endeavors before we take a break here. We often will wish people good luck in your future endeavors. Usually it's plural. We hardly ever hear something that's just singular. Good luck with your future endeavor. It's just a nice way to say good luck to someone you probably won't see again forever or maybe for a long while. Right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher who will explain a bit more, and then we'll be back to talk more about finding the right tutor.
Hi everyone, my name's Jenny. 今天我们要看的是第10单元。这篇文章谈的是 tutor。Tutor 其实就是讲老师，但是教授的老师不见得在学校里哦，也可以是 private tutor， 也就是个人的。那个人的老师就是家教了。那么我们开始就说到，其实很多人都想请家教。家教的目的呢，就是在于 further your education。好。Further 这个字在这里也是当作动词来用，意思就是说让你的教育呢更进一步。那让你的教育进步就是可能你有很多的原因哦。那后面就说到可能是跟成绩有关，那你希望在你努力的这个科目上面追上你的同侪 catch up with， 这是一个很好用的片语，赶上你的同侪。好，那当然了，也有可能呢，你希望能够学一个学校里面没有教的科目。好，我们注意到这个字 wish， 我们常常提，这代表期许、希望。我们常常强调 wish， 如果你是像许愿一样，你后面加一个 that 子句 ，Oh, I wish that I were a bird， 你后面就会用假设语法。好，那是 wish 这个字后面接一个子句 that 子句的状况。不过呢，我们太强调这个用法就忘记了，其实 wish 如果你后面就是加不定词 wish to do something， 那其实说起来就跟 hope to do something 是接近的，意思差不多的，都表示你希望做什么事。那你很可能呢，像在这边 wish to， 希望要学一个学校没有教的。那我们看看后面就接着说了。In either case， 我们注意到 either 这个字，我们就知道它常常有一个片语是 either A or B。的确， 谈 either 往往就是或 A 或 B 这两者选其中一个，它比较像是单数的想法哦。那以这边来说，你前面有两个状况，要么就是把成绩搞好，然后赶上同学，要么就是学一个新的科目。但是不管你讲的是 A 或者是讲 B， 这前面两者之一都没有关系。那他说啊，你要去上补习班可能并不是最好的选择，理由就是后面讲的，补习班课程固定，而且它大概有一个最低限度的班级规模，那就超过了不是一两个人上的家教班了。好，我们来看，下面就说了，那所以说像现在，请家教，其实你还可以做什么？可以做的是 get private tutoring online， 那就是上网去找私人的家教。逗点后面接着 which， 那我们就要注意到咯 which 所指的就是前面这件事，去找的是网络上找私人家教这件事情。好，逗点后面隔开表示非限定用法，这样子做是可以怎么样呢？当然就可以让你有更多的选择和自由。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about tutors. Remember, you might want to hire a tutor to help you with a subject that you're struggling with, that you're having trouble with, or you might want to hire a tutor because they don't teach the thing you want to learn in school. And plus, tutors are more flexible, and cram schools have fixed schedules and minimum class sizes. So these are some of the reasons you might consider hiring a tutor to further your future academic endeavors. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, in fact, tutors have a long and celebrated history. Yes, tutors have been around for thousands of years.
They sure have. Here's an example, guys. We're going way, 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 way back to ancient Greece. In those days, tutors were learned instructors. Why are we saying learned? I know when Tom read this, he said learned as well. A learned person is someone who is quite scholarly, has, devoted themselves to learning more and more. Learned instructors. But we'll also use this as an adjective, and we'll pronounce it learned. For example, learned behaviors or learned behavior. Oh, that's learned behavior. Animals sometimes are born into this world and they have behaviors that they never learn from anybody. It's just natural. It's just in them. But learned behaviors are things that you've watched other people do. You've been taught that. But here, when you're talking about someone who's very scholarly and intelligent, we actually will pronounce that learned. And an instructor is a teacher of some type. Instructors could be someone who's teaching you things like how to swim. My swimming instructor. I didn't say my swimming teacher. Oh, sometimes I would, though. Yeah, they're kind of interchangeable at times. Also, at some colleges, teachers who are not professors, who don't have a PhD, will often be called instructors rather than a professor.
Indeed. Sometimes, to me, an instructor is someone who teaches you how to do something, whereas a teacher is just teaching you information and knowledge for a test. But again, this is very flexible. A teacher can also be called an instructor, so it depends on the situation. But these tutors were learned instructors. They had degrees. They had studied things before in universities, and they were hired by wealthy families, rich families, to educate their children in subjects including language, philosophy, and history. And that's kind of true today. Wealthy families will hire tutors for their children. Maybe the subjects are different nowadays. Yes, they will tutor them in languages like English or French or Japanese or whatever. And I'm not so sure about philosophy, though. Maybe that's not so useful in the business world these days. And history, well, that's fun. But yeah, I don't think wealthy people are going to be teaching their kids about history so much. It's all about making money.
Yeah, and if you're going to go back in history, let's go back to the early 1900s and 1800s, 1700s. Wealthy families then, especially for the girls, they would hire someone called a governess. A governess would come into a home, live there full time, and also be responsible for teaching, especially the young girls, how to be a lady. And teach her some of these things like French, which was always considered to be something you needed to learn if you were from the upper classes long ago. But not anymore. Nowadays, private tutors are teaching kids whatever they want to learn, I guess. I think there's a tutor out there for everyone if you are wanting some more knowledge about whatever you're interested in. So students would be educated individually or in small groups. You could afford that because back then, if you were wealthy, you were typically quite wealthy. And so they could afford to hire someone just to teach their kids. They didn't have to send them to a school. And if we think back even 200 years ago, a lot of girls didn't have the chance to even go to school.
Yeah, they do now, of course. That's good.
Yay.
And this practice continued for centuries, for hundreds of years, with the children of royal and noble families receiving an education from the best teachers that money could buy, the best teachers in the land. And in universities, tutors would also live in the same residences as students and help them learn. So nowadays, of course, it's kind of hard to imagine that your daughter's French tutor would actually live with you in your house. But back then, they did.
It was common, yeah.
It was very common. And a residence, of course, is where you live. And the person who lives there is a resident. We are residents of Taiwan, for example, but we could say that our home is, for example, is in Mujia or it's in Shenkeng. That's where my residence is.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're someone of that country. You're not. I'm not a citizen. Tom's not a citizen. We're still U.S. citizens, but we are residents of Taiwan, residents of Taipei. Actually, when we use residences now, we typically don't refer to the whole country, right? We refer to the city or maybe even the neighborhood. Back then, the tutors would actually live in the same residences as students. I mentioned that with the governesses. Nowadays, it says private tutors are often employed to instruct children in particular subjects. Here, instead of using engage, we're using employ, which means to give someone a job. So, they were often engaged or employed to instruct children in particular subjects. I know some of the governesses and tutors for these really wealthy children, they had a lot of knowledge. So they didn't have to hire someone to be their French tutor and their math tutor and their history tutor. Usually they were able to tutor them in everything. But nowadays people specialize. So you might need a different tutor to teach you Korean, then find another tutor for Japanese or Chinese or whatever you're wanting to learn more of. What we do know nowadays, though, is a lot of kids, at least in America, a lot of kids hire tutors or go to a special company to help them prepare for these tests, like the MCAT, the GMAT to get into grad school, or even to get a very good SAT score. They'll hire special companies who have classes or private tutors to help them so that they can score higher and get into a great university.
Yeah, I've never done this before. When I went to high school, of course, the only tutor we had in our school was for the Vietnamese students who had just immigrated to my hometown and they didn't know any English, so there was a tutor there to help them learn English. But for the rest of us or for regular students in the school, nobody really took any extra classes. It was a small town high school and people weren't very ambitious or whatever.
Aggressive,
Yeah, we just just wanted to get into college or start work at the local farm or the local meat packing plant or something like that. So, yeah, the idea of a tutor is pretty new to me, but of course here in Taiwan, tutors are everywhere.
Yeah, they've been around for a long, long time, and they can be a lot of help. It mentions this in the article, but a lot of tutors these days are just your online tutors. So you can sign up to get some help from someone online. I actually was helping someone online 2 weeks ago with her pronunciation. She was going to give a speech and she wanted extra help. And since she lived quite far away, it was easier just to get online, especially nowadays we have some good connections, some new apps or software that helps, with these sorts of things. But that's something you should look into. Maybe you can just get an online tutor, and usually that's a little cheaper, I've found.
Yeah, if you need it just for one particular aspect of a subject and you only need to talk to a tutor just one or 2 times or something like that, yeah, you could consider that. But most of the time, people hire tutors for an entire semester. Like if I were to study physics or mathematics, of course, I would need to hire a tutor. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
好，我们接下来看一下家教，它是有一段历史的。从以前在古希腊的时候，谁来当家教？这个人啊，他可是一个 learned instructor。我们知道 learn L-E-A-R-N 这个字呢，其实当然是学习。可是呢，如果你加了 ed， 它不见得一定就是当过去式的动词用法哦，它加了 ed 可以像在这边一样作为一个形容词，念法上就会念 learned 而不是 learned。 好，换句话说，发音是有别的，所以你听这个音就知道你用在什么样的状况里。以这边来说，它放在 instructors 前方，它其实是一个形容词的用法 learned， 意思就是表示学识渊博的，有学问的讲师，那才能当家教的。好，那当然，当时呢，就是有钱人请家教，那当然就是要教语言啦、哲学啦、历史。那学生他也会接受个别的或者是一个小组的教育。那几个世纪下来，像皇室啦、像贵族，他们这种有钱有势的家庭里，他们其实找到家教就是要受当地最好的老师的教育。我们注意一下，这边有一个句构，他说提到这样子的做法持续几个世纪，然后逗点，他接着写 with， 这是一个介系词。那我们知道它有一个用法，就像这边一样，后面加一个受词，受词后面加一个补语，表示一个附带的情形跟状况。当时的状况就是 with 受词呢The children of royal and noble families， 好，这个是它的受词。后面的补语，说明这些人，他们这些小孩做了什么。Receiving， 这是一个 V-I-N-G， 没有错，在这个句构里面 with 加受词，后面的补语要考虑一下是 V-I-N-G 现在分词还是过去分词。以这边来说，它是接受教育，所以当然是现在分词。好，这就是家教的历史。我们今天先谈到这里，我们下次再聊。
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time because we're going to introduce to you some possible tutors in different subjects, and we're going to see basically their resumes and see if they are qualified to teach you in whatever subject you want to learn. So please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.